Happy October 7th of 2024. And thank you for coming back to the burn as we go over some things that happened this weekend. Oh, it's going to be a banger. Thank you for coming back to the burn with Ryan Van Dever, presented to you by Hot Zone Sports. The information that you need, built with you in mind, for the people, by the people, and with the people. Join the Hot Zone Sports community today, especially on YouTube. We got 25,000 followers, coming up on 26K on Facebook. So come on and join us. Make sure you like the video, subscribe, and share it with your friends. If you see a glare on my screen, it's because I'm watching the Chiefs game. I don't know. Many of you may have not noticed, but last night, or actually 1 a.m. Eastern Time, the Cowboys defeated the Pittsburgh Steelers 20-17. The Cowboys held the Steelers to 92 rushing yards, while Dak had 352 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. So what do I take away from this win? There was no Micah Parsons. There was no DeMarcus Lawrence. And they held the number 10 rushing offense in the NFL to 92 whopping rushing yards. When Parsons and Lawrence comes back, you should expect that the defense to be even better. If not, the rush defense be better, because they have been putrid up to this point, except last night's game. If they are not, then that is definitely something that is going to need to be looked at by the Cowboys organization and by Mike Zimmer himself. And this is a compliment. My favorite part of Dak Prescott is that if you just started watching a game in the third quarter, you would have no idea if Dak had 4 touchdowns or 4 interceptions. There's a word that comes to mind. He is unflappable. He never changes his mood. It's ridiculous, really. And sometimes maddening if you're a Cowboys fan. So he and CeeDee Lamb, I'm sure you all saw it, they had a little bit of a kerfuffle last night. CeeDee Lamb was seen barking at him. So let's hypothesize here. You know, there could be a lot of things going on here. And I was a bit confused by this. And everything I get is, these guys are good. They're the dudes of the team. They're boys. So there's no problem. That is what you continuously hear around the Cowboys organization. Well, I don't know what's going on. Even in that Green Bay playoff game last season, when Dak missed CD and then they had their disconnect, they didn't seem like they wanted to get together and get talking. I said to myself in that moment, let's wait a minute. That was early in the game. That happened. That was too early. But Dak vanished in the second half in that upset. So whatever that was, I thought, did you bring this into this game, right? Like, it happens. I'm not a lip reader. But what I thought he was saying, I thought he was saying, you know what we talked about, right? You get me the jump balls. And Dak, maybe he was a little reluctant to just throw it up for a jump ball, because it's not exactly a high percentage throw. Could have been another pick. But that's what I thought he was saying. I didn't see him swearing. Chris Collinsworth needs to pump the brakes a little bit. I thought it was just like, you know what? We talked about jump balls in a situation because he threw that ball counter on the line. He did. He threw it on the line. They talked about maybe getting it up, and that's nothing. As a wide receiver, you really need your quarterback. You need to stay on the same page as your quarterback. So all these wideouts that bark at their quarterbacks only causes dissension within the team. But I don't think that's what's going on here. You can usually tell by their body language. You know, I talk about body language a lot, but it tells you everything about somebody. Whether you're new, meeting them, or whether you're best friends with them, you can tell what type of person they are by their body language. How angry they are, how happy they are, yada, 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 yada. But this was the Cowboys team last night. It wasn't always pretty. It wasn't really pretty at all. This was not an artistic masterpiece by any means. This is not your Van Gogh masterpiece here. And neither was their win last Thursday night. What it did show me was when they were 1-2 and they were in big trouble. They had to have this win. By beating the Giants on the road and then going into Pittsburgh last night and winning, what did it say to me? Well, it said a lot to me because, number one, the mentality of this football team has changed. It has completely flipped. And what I mean by that is they got to run the football. They have to be more balanced on offense. You cannot win by having Dak Prescott throw it 60 times a game and rushing it 10 times a game. You got to be more balanced. They knew that was a problem going into the game, and they fixed it. They kept running the football in this game against, by the way, the Pittsburgh Steelers. They're not exactly slouches, all right? Nobody would want to do that. But that defense, that's the change. That is the change right there. I mean, you knew that Pittsburgh was going to just run it down their throats. You know what? You have to credit Mike Zimmer here and that defensive coaching staff putting their guys in the best position to win. They're playing without their two best players on defense. I mean, is it coincidental that they all of a sudden rose up and stopped the run without DeMarcus Lawrence and Micah Parsons? Some will look at it, say maybe. Absolutely no chance. Let me just say that. So what am I saying? I'm seeing the scheme was more guys around the line of scrimmage, even bringing in some guys that were attacking the line of scrimmage, attacking blocking patterns. We haven't seen them do that yet this season. Okay, so maybe the last 2 weeks we have seen them do that. So again, they answered a huge test. And when you know that team is saying, hey, look, we're going to run it down your throat and we're going to see if you can stop it. And Dallas usually is like a finesse type defense. Soft per se. They don't do anything about it. This time they had an answer. They said, no, we're going to punch you in the mouth back. We don't usually see Dallas win games like this. Let's just be real. We don't see the Dallas Cowboys win games like this. Multiple turnovers. Dak Prescott did not play well, okay? But they stopped the run. That is something. Is there any going back to last season, their inability to stop the run when they needed to, when they needed to make the plays the most? They did it, okay? All the other mistakes, those are correctable. But to go out there on the road against Pittsburgh and get a win like this, we can't sit here and dismiss what they accomplished last night. I know there's a lot of Cowboys haters out there right now. 1996, Cowboys fans will never forget that. But the Cowboys going out there and getting a big win on the road against the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is more of avoiding a catastrophe to start the season than getting a huge win. This was a bad offense bailing out another bad offense, meaning the Pittsburgh Steelers struggling offense. I mean, just Justin Fields was 15 for 27 for 131 yards and 2 touchdowns. The Pittsburgh Steelers offense is on the struggle bus. It might be a charging train at this point. And until they bring in another high caliber wide receiver, it will continue to be on that same struggle bus. But we can't make any proclamations at week 5. We just can't do it yet. But let's take a look at the bigger picture here. I know let's talk about what the Cowboys are and what they aren't. They looked like a slightly above average NFL team right now. That's what they look like. But who in the NFC is it that truly looks great? Let's have this discussion. It's very hard to find a team that looks great right now. The Lions could get great. Maybe they'll wind up being great. Is Minnesota great? Green Bay isn't great. They're not. They're clearly at the worst, if not. Detroit is clearly the second best team in the NFC. Detroit and Minnesota are clearly head and shoulders above everybody. Seattle, San Francisco, Arizona, Minnesota, Green Bay, Detroit, Philadelphia, Washington, Tampa, New Orleans, and Atlanta. I mean, there are a bunch of teams in the NFC, all of whom, when they play, look good, all of whom are clearly flawed. San Francisco is obviously not a great team. They have blown 2 leads in games this season, but I've said it before, and I will say it again. Once the 49ers get more healthy, they will be a team to be reckoned with. Right now, they're not running on all cylinders. They're running on cracked cylinders, if anything, at this moment. But we can't exactly have a serious conversation about these teams because it is only week 5. We don't really know who these teams are yet. There's 12 games left in the season. Well, for each team, not total. Fuck. If you ask me in another 5 weeks or around Thanksgiving time, then we'll have a better idea what these teams are and who they are. Their weaknesses, their strengths. The Cowboys had 446 yards against Pittsburgh. I don't know why everybody's talking so much shit on the Cowboys. I understand it wasn't a pretty win. It wasn't a 31-6 type victory over the Pittsburgh Steelers. But this wasn't the Panthers' defense that they played against. Yes, Dak made some mistakes, but they can be corrected. I mean, they were without Brandon Cook for the game, and Jalen Tolbert assumed his role. It was good for one game, but it's not going to be the season game plan. As many of you know, there are rookie quarterbacks that come through those pearly NFL gates every single season, and every single season they struggle. Bryce Brown. Well, it actually just seems like the number 2 pick in the NFL draft over the past couple seasons has been flourishing. CJ Stroud, Jayden Daniels. Now Caleb Williams is coming on, but he was the number 1 pick. I digress. Man, yesterday, Caleb Williams and Jayden Daniels balled out. Really. And it's good to see that some rookie quarterbacks are starting to come through. With J.J. McCarthy being out, he probably wouldn't be starting at this moment in time, since Sam Darnold is just being a world beater right now, with the Vikings being undefeated at 5-0. Caleb Williams is finally in the deep passing game. Prior to this week, he was a whopping 5 for 31 on passes that traveled 15 yards or more through the air, a perfect 4 for 4 vertically in this game, as Williams becomes the first Bears rookie to win 3 of his first 5 career starts. The Bears' largest win since 2021. The Bears' defense has allowed 21 or fewer points in 10 straight games. Yeah, they're world beaters. Sometimes. They weren't against the Colts. Dink, dink. The Bears, on the offensive side of the ball, as we take a look at some of these impressive numbers by Caleb Williams, but specifically to that vertical passing game. In this game, he seemed to look more comfortable. Is it a scheme? I don't know. Let me simplify the answer for you. The offensive line, they're playing better. That has been a glaring hole since the start of the season. Hell, you can go back to the preseason if you want to. This adjustment, when you talk about seeing Caleb more successful within the offense, when you talk about the running game, everything starts and stops with the Bears' offensive line. And they've come together over the last few weeks, and they put forth a damn good effort to protect their quarterback, their golden boy, and we're able to open lanes for the running backs. So when you look at what Caleb did yesterday, it will be his best game as a professional quarterback thus far. 300 yards, 2 touchdowns. He averaged 10 yards per throw. He was only sacked once. Now he still gives you the ability to buy time, right? He loves improvising in the quarterback, doing that backyard football, but he wasn't harassed as much as we've seen in the weeks past. And then the running game as a team, over 100 yards rushing, led by DeAndre Swift, who had 70. Plus, you talk about what he had from scrimmage as well. This game is huge because he's a reliable pass catcher out of the backfield. So when you talk about being successful, trying to get the most out of your young quarterback, we know the talent is there. We saw it at Oklahoma. We saw it at USC. We know it's there. But he has been under duress a lot to start the season. The continuity, they've come together, and they have done a fine job in protecting the quarterback. And because of that, we're able to see the type of performances that he put up today. And the same could be said for DJ Moore. When the offensive line plays better, everyone plays better. Yeah. So I'm going to give you a little nugget here. The passer rating by week for Caleb Williams. Week 1, 51. Actually, that was week 2. My apologies. Week 3, 80.8. Week 4, 106.6. And then 126.6 passer rating for Caleb Williams in his most recent win. It is a line pointing upwards. You can see the progression. And we'll see what it looks like moving forward. But learning quickly is Caleb Williams at this point. You talk about the run game. You talk about the offensive line. A defense that can complement. Oh, boy, can it complement. It is making life very easy. When we watched the Bears defense last year, we thought that they were exceedingly great. Not quite monsters of the midway, but, that's kind of hard to live up to. But you can see easily they are physical, they are violent, dare I say, at the point of attack. The Bears go out, attack the football right off rip, and they are the swarming type of defense. When one player attacks, they all attack like it's their last play. There was an unbelievable pick today, and when the offense was kind of becoming a bit stagnant, guess what? You can hang your head on the defense, and so far, they have delivered. Now, we all know there has been a very hot topic the first month of the season, and that's how Jayden Daniels has played in Washington. Completion percentage over 80% against Arizona. They blow out a very competitive Cardinals team, a Cardinals team that just beat San Francisco. Take that for what it's worth. A Cardinals team that has played better on the road. And on Sunday afternoon, there are a lot of things that are right about the way the Commanders are playing right now. You can see a certain place. You can see how hard they play. You can see a program emerging from the darkness. You can see young players contributing. You can, but much of it comes back to what? Jayden Daniels. He has been able to do this in his first year as an NFL player and over his first month as a starting quarterback. Whether or not this is sustainable, some of the numbers certainly aren't, and his completion percentage will drop. I can promise you that his completion percentage will drop. This high completion percentage right now is not sustainable. He is a quarterback who has been very much prepared for this moment. He had 55 college starts. I think we can make a perfectly reasonable argument that the number one guy in the entire NFL this season is Daniels up to this point. Yeah, Josh Allen's had a couple of tough weeks. Jayden Daniels, a rookie who is just, he's taken the league by storm at this point. This is the story of the season. Jayden Daniels' emergence to superstardom from basically his first game in the NFL is absolutely fascinating to me. They look great, like he's throwing the ball well. They have a 4th and 3, and he runs it for 40 yards. Like he is making every single play you'd want a quarterback to make. Now, if I told you that number 5 in red is a rookie, you would think, oh yeah, that guy's probably won a couple MVPs already. Look, like he's probably him, Lamar Jackson, 1A, 1B. Like, that's how good he looks right now. It's very impressive. Yeah. Let me ask you a question. Would I be wrong in here saying at this moment Jayden Daniels is the MVP of the NFL? That is not a hot take. You can leave your replies in the comments. The issue is that the voters will never go that way of the rookie. Now, I was trying to look this up because I was very curious. Jim Brown is the only rookie to ever win the NFL MVP. And that matters in this conversation. If I had to tell you who I think the MVP is today, I think it's Mahomes. I know. Don't click the X and turn the, actually it would be up here. Don't click the X and turn the video off. Just hear me out. The Chiefs are the Chiefs, at least in this moment in time. Disregarding the penalties, disregarding Rashee Rice almost killing multiple people and now he's probably out for the year or close to. Like, the Chiefs still have a dominant defense, a defense that gives Mahomes more opportunities. And it looks like right now the Chiefs' offense is going to be more tight end centric than anything. But the Chiefs are still the Chiefs at this moment in time. There's one other answer. Maybe you could make a case for like CJ Stroud. But I think, I don't know, man. He hasn't had the greatest start to the season. Like, he's still killing it, but team isn't exactly where they need to be. I know they lost to the Minnesota Vikings, and that's their only loss, but they really played like complete garbage in that game. But it's tough for these voters, man. It's going to be tough for them to get them to convince them to vote for a rookie for MVP. But who else would it be right now? Like, Jayden Daniels at this moment in time deserves it. Like, he is playing at a mind-blowing level right now. And as a rookie, here's a little staggering Commanders, little nuggets. To me, what really stood out yesterday when I was looking just at some of their numbers, the third highest point differential in games total so far this year belongs to the Washington Commanders. So, for whatever we want to say, the Washington Commanders are not just 4-1. They're 4-1, and they're beating teams like they are. Let's not get it twisted. They're beating the shit out of teams. Like, they're not squeaking by these teams. And by the way, another little nugget. When all the people said that Quinn didn't really matter to the Cowboys because the Cowboys defense, they are trash right now. And as we know, overall, over the course of the year, and the Commanders, I mean, they're playing, and they're playing very well. And the other side of it is, even if you don't, I'm not even just talking about the defense. I'm talking about the most incredible transformation we've seen for the Washington Commanders is that nobody's talking about anything other than football. Like, how long has it actually been since we talked about the football team, the Washington Commanders? Was it before they were called the Washington Redskins? Don't mean it to be a negative connotation, but I honestly think that it was the last time we talked about the Washington Commanders was probably when they had RG3 and Kirk Cousins started taking over. I don't know. It's amazing what happens when an adult is in the room. It's amazing what happens when you get a head coach that you know has a good concept of what he's trying to build. And it's also amazing what happens when the organization invests in a high quality offensive coordinator. Say what you will about Cliff Kingsbury, but at this moment in time, he has proven that he is a high quality offensive coordinator. Not a great head coach, but a good offensive coordinator. The Washington Commanders aren't just this year's Texans because they're successful. They're this year's Texans because your conversation around the brand of the football team has changed because of the head coach and the quarterback. Like, that's the most incredibly difficult thing to do in sports. It is absolutely mind-blowing. And that is exactly what's happening. Completely turning around a franchise that has been abysmal for more than a decade. King Griffey Jr. got a stadium built in Seattle. Peyton Manning got one built in Indianapolis. This is what happens when a quarterback can finally bring momentum to a failing football franchise. The Commanders finally have something to talk about in Washington that brings excitement to them, not how many losses they're going to have this year. Well, that is it for today's episode of The Burn. And if you have not already liked and subscribed to our YouTube channel, go ahead and do that. And for those of you that wanted to talk about the American flag right there being backwards, thank you. I appreciate it. Not all of us are always wrong. Not all of us are always right. But I appreciate your criticism. And now it's fixed. So thank you, sir. But if you have any questions or concerns or anything you want me to touch on, shoot me a DM on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram. We're on all of them. We're on all of them. On YouTube is where you're going to get the most video action, though. So if you're following me on Facebook, all 26,000 of you, go ahead and come over to YouTube so you can subscribe to my content. And for all you YouTube fuckers, go ahead and subscribe to me too and turn that notification bell on. That way you do not miss a single episode or short. Or when I start going live. It's going to happen soon. But that is it for today's episode of The Burn. Thank you for listening, and I hope everybody has an amazing October 8th.